November ends and Monday begins the month of December, and we're going to start off the month with winter storm watches up for a good portion of the interior Northeast. We have a storm that's coming out of Texas and heading up the East Coast. We're going to talk about that. And we will also focus on more snow for the upper Midwest, as well as for parts of the middle Mississippi Valley, as that Texas system moves eastward. And we'll take a look at the rest of the week and maybe even into next weekend. And we have a special guest tonight. Author of Angel of the Storm, Ben Reiver, is here with us right here on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which, of course, you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast if you choose to do so by doing your shopping on Amazon. Yes, just use our referral link to get you to Amazon. And Amazon will throw us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. And you know what? Doesn't cost you 1 penny out of your pocket. Just do your shopping, and Amazon takes care of the rest. And we appreciate the support because it keeps this live Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast commercial free. And for the weather geek in your life, Tempest by Weatherflow. You can get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for these is both Amazon and the Tempest Weather Station is peppered on the chat board tonight. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast, and we have a coupon code, a special coupon code only for Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast viewers. And Joe Rayo, that coupon code is?
Well, it's still autumn 2025, Joe Chiappi, although I have the feeling that it might be more apropos to be winter 2025 by Tuesday, but right now, autumn 2025 gets you 10% off anything you get from Tempest, whatever you buy, a weather station or other
gadgets and gizmos.
Gadgets and gizmos. Yes. You get it 10% off when you use the special coupon code autumn 2025.
And as I said tonight, you can sort of see him. The book's covering Joe Rayo's face for the moment, but he doesn't mind.
I don't mind.
No, this is well, it's a beautiful hardcover book, by the way.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Angel of the Storm, The Mysterious Path of an NYPD Cop, written by Ben Reiver, and many of you may know Ben as Angry Ben. He's not really an angry guy. That's just his persona, you know.
I'm all right.
You're all right. You're livable. Angry Ben of Angry Ben's Angry Weather, which you'll find on Facebook, and he is partnered with me in one of my websites that he maintains and forecasts on a regular basis, nycweathernow.com. Ben, I'm so happy to have you on. We should have gotten you on longer before you did this book, which you really have had an very interesting path. I mean, you went from wanting to, your mindset was, I'm going to school and I want to be a meteorologist, and then fate kind of, intervened and sent you on a number of different paths along the way. Tell us a little bit about that.
First off, I was always interested in the weather since I was a little kid. My birthday, May 31st, was notorious for severe weather. And it was something that always lived with me since I was a little kid. I remember there was a huge tornado outbreak when I was a little kid in 1985. And I was always interested in the weather because there was always severe weather in the tri-state area on my birthday. It was a common thing. And always loved it, always interested in it, wanted to go to school for it. I met you a very long time ago when I was probably 11 or 12 years old. We took a field trip to Channel 12 and didn't meet you personally, but you spoke to a small group of kids, and we met as adults. But in between, I went to school with all the intention of becoming a meteorologist, and I got hit by a drunk driver, and it changed my life. It kind of threw me for a loop. It took me a long time to recover from that. And then went back to school and changed majors, and 9/11 happened, and the rest is history. And then through a mutual friend back in 2015 or 2016, we re-met as adults, and we became friends, and I was talking about how much I love the weather, and I was still interested in it. And I remember you telling me to experiment a little bit, and you were watching me do my work, and you asked me to do some work for you, and really with that, you really gave me a second chance to recapture that. Even though I'm not a professional doing it, it really gave me a chance to recapture that and show people what I had. And throughout the years, we've done a good job putting together very accurate forecasts. It's very rare that I botch one. It's been a long time, and all the internet trolls and everything like that. Everyone likes to say
they
something.
love you.
Oh yeah, they love me. They were going crazy this week when I came back and was talking about this winter storm. But the book is about that path in general. It doesn't go into you and I, because it essentially stops in 2015, but it just shows that path. And how much I love science, and at the same time, I'm the type of person who's a very logical person, but I've experienced some very illogical things, and it takes into account all of that, and really takes you on a journey of my life into the NYPD and all the things that I experienced, climaxes in Hurricane Irene and that big rescue that we made, and the miracle that took place. And the book is not preachy by any aspect. It's spiritual in some aspects, but it's not preachy. I come from a mixed family, so we're not pushing any type of religion here, or any specific religion, but it just tells you my story and all the things that occurred in between.
Joe Rayos has a question, but before Joe Rayo has this question, so he can formulate the question, I am going to just want to say welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board after a long weekend, because we've been gone since last Tuesday, to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We are here normally Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m., with Fridays and Saturdays being off days, unless there's a storm system around, in which case we'll juggle the schedule and we'll let you know. And so that we've juggled the schedule, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. If you like the show, hit the like button. And if you have questions for Ben, put them on the chat board and we'll relay them along. That's what we'll do. So, we encourage questions. Joseph.
I think the one question that I have, and I think a lot of our folks on the chat board would like to know, Ben, is how did you get the moniker Angry Ben? Where did that come out of?
So it's kind of a funny story. Obviously I'm not really an angry guy, but when I was on patrol in the Rockaways, I was an NYPD officer. I worked with a guy named John, and he knew I was a very nice person. I was a lot like my dad. My dad was an NYPD cop from 1969 to 1987, and I was a lot like him. He was a very fair man, but if you raised your hands to him and you tried to do anything on the street to him, he would put you in your place, and I was that type of person. Not necessarily a brutal police officer, but we had a couple situations, especially during the summertime, when there were other officers calling for help, and a lot of times the local people would run the other way when they saw me coming. So that's where John called me Angry Ben, and it stuck. Sometimes nicknames they stick with you. And I remember when Joe asked me to work with him, I said to him, I came up with this idea. I said, let's come up with this persona. I already had the nickname. I said, let's do Angry Ben's Angry Weather. And he was a little bit nervous about it. And I said to him, everyone's doing the same thing. And I wanted to do something fun where you had not only the weather, but you had the food that I loved, and the cooking, and the the cigars and the liquor and the persona, and I wanted to go with it, and it took off. So it was kind of a thing. It sticks with me. And a lot of times people run into me in real life. I was at the Georgetown, South Carolina wooden boat show a few weeks ago, and I ran into someone who recognized me, and we were talking for a while, and he goes, "You're not angry at all." And I don't know if he was disappointed or happy with it, but overall, it really stuck, and people enjoy the persona.
One of our chat board members, who apparently isn't old enough to drink yet, however, he is old enough to recognize the fact that you have a whiskey bottle you have something behind you, a bottle of something.
Affirmative. So this is my first time online, so I brought with me one of my special bottles behind me.
Oh, okay.
Ancroy's 23. It's a special edition bottle. There's only 450 of them in existence. But
Nice.
yeah, I just wanted to keep something behind me and keep the persona going. And I don't drink every day or anything like that, but I enjoy a good little dram once in a while.
There's a couple of things in your book, and your book is really about a path where there seems to be sort of this guiding hand that's pushing you along in different places. And I'm looking just here at chapter 9. You actually fought in the Golden Gloves.
Yes.
Wow.
I lost in the Golden Gloves, but
just by chance, did you lose to Sister Charles Edwards?
Yeah, I wish. I forgot the name of the church that we fought at, but it was something that I really needed to do for myself. I was into boxing as a kid before I got into my accident. I was actually being groomed, not in a negative way, but groomed to become a professional fighter. And I was taught by my dad and also a middleweight fighter from the 30s and 40s. I'm not going to mention his name, but kind of like a Rocky situation, just an old man teaching me an old school way of fighting. And they were grooming me to become a professional because I had a talent. And that drunk driving accident when I got hit when I was 20 changed a lot of things in it. And I got injured bad enough where I was never going to fight professional. And I wanted to test myself. I had to test myself. A lot of people didn't want me to get back into the ring and do it. I kind of went against the grain and went against all the advice to do that. And it was an important thing to me. Even win, lose, or draw. It was an important thing for me to do and test myself physically to see if I was okay, and test myself mentally. And I got in the ring with the guy that wound up getting to the finals, and I lost that first set of fights. I lost to the guy that got to the finals, and I was really out of my class weight wise because of my injuries, and I couldn't train as hard as I wanted to. But it was a good test, and as it says in the book, if I didn't fight in the Golden Gloves, the Golden Gloves was just before 9/11. It was February of 2001. And when 9/11 happened, I went to become a police officer. I was immediately put on medical review because of my injuries from the accident. And if it wasn't for that fight, then I wouldn't have had anyone to call and prove that I was physically okay to do the academy. That was a big thing. I had to prove that I could get through the academy, and that Golden Gloves fight that nobody wanted me to do proved that I could train, and I could get in the ring, and I could fight. If I could get in the ring in the fight, I could do the police academy. So that was a big thing. It wasn't about winning or losing the fight. The path and the test was about being able to become a New York City police officer.
Joe Rayo, can you see the super chats that are on there?
I can see, I saw a couple of them. Delaware Weather Guy saying kudos to Ben. Appreciate your service to our country as a police officer. Thank you very much. And just backtracking here, Davy Full 99. And he says, "Hi, Angry Ben. Long time no see. How have you been? Love your story. It strengthens my faith in the Lord."
Nice. And thanks for hitting the tip jar, guys. You had a very interesting weather experience in what you in your work as a police officer with in Hurricane Irene, Ben. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And by the way, the link for Ben's book is pinned to the top of the chat board, folks. It's Angel of the Storm, and it's written by Ben Reiver. Nice hardcover, makes a good stocking stuffer. It's actually big enough that you can just you can wrap it and put it under your holiday tree, Christmas tree, whatever it is. But yeah, you were out there during Hurricane Irene.
Yeah, and I wasn't supposed to be, and I'm not gonna ruin the whole book, but again, the climax of it is the rescue we made in Hurricane Irene, and I'm not shy. We could talk about that. I was not supposed to be out in that storm. My wife, who is an NYPD officer, knew of my career before that and knew how crazy I was, and asked me to take myself out of it. And so I asked to stick around at the base. It wasn't something that I felt good about, but I did it for her. And I was on the desk when Hurricane Irene happened. I was inside, and I was supposed to make the notifications if anything was going on. And hurricane happened. A rescue came over for two guys in it was either a rowboat or a kayak. They went out in from Staten Island by Oakland Beach or Mayberry Promenade. They went out to test themselves against the hurricane. And as you both know, with hurricanes, it could be breezy beforehand, but it typically turns on real quick when those main squalls start to come in. So they went out when it was calm, and then those squalls started to come in, and there was somebody that was walking on the boardwalk and saw them get taken out to sea and turned over, and they called 911. So we had two boats that went out to make the rescue. I was not on that boat. And then I got a phone call at the desk saying that one of the guys lost a motor and they needed to come back, and they needed me to come down to the docks to help out. So I went down to the docks to help him out, and as soon as I put one of the lines on the cleats to the back of the boat, the stern, the engine roared back to life. And that's when I knew that I was in trouble. And just based on my path and the book itself, if you read it, you can tell when certain things are going to happen. And the engine came back to life, and the captain on the boat said, "Ben, hop on the boat. We need a third guy." So I hopped on the boat. I called the sergeant and told her I was going out, and she approved it. And we didn't know where the other boat was. There was a second boat out there. We had no idea what was going on. And we went out there, and what we didn't know is that the second boat turned around because they were scared. So we were out there alone. There was no Coast Guard. There was no FDNY. There was nobody. It was just us, and we didn't know it. And my phone rings, and it was the commanding officer of the harbor unit, and he was telling us to turn around. And where we were at this point, we couldn't turn around because the seas were too rough. And if we tried to turn around, it was possible that we could have gotten capsized where we were. And so we convinced him to keep going. He told us just to go out and make it look good. And the captain of the boat agreed, let's keep going. So we went out, and we were in Raritan Bay. We were kind of in between the Rockaway Peninsula and the Sandy Hook Peninsula of New Jersey. So we were kind of like in between Rockaway, Sandy Hook, and Staten Island. We were in that little triangle. And you could see the waves hitting up against the rocks of the old Orchard Shoal light, which is I wouldn't call it a lighthouse. It's kind of like an automated lighthouse that's been there for a long time. And we got broadsided by a big wave, and I hit my head and blacked out. And next thing I know, I'm watching these guys in the water struggling, and I could see what they were wearing. I could see where they were. There was green lightning all around us. And when I came to, I said to the captain, I said, we're going in the wrong direction. And he was mad at me. There was a little history between him and I. And I finally convinced him to see things my way. And we went the way that I saw them. And the bow of the boat went right into the guys in the darkness and in the lightning and the rain and the wind and the waves. The bow of the boat went right into them in a 90 square mile search area. It was an amazing thing that we took part in, and the aftermath that we had to deal with because we disregarded those orders to turn around and we made the other guys look bad. It was something. So the book goes into that and discusses it and the miracle that we took part in. But as you know, the following year, Hurricane Sandy happened and made Irene look like nothing. And in the process of the whole thing, in the aftermath of Irene, they were trying to tell us that we were exaggerating about what we saw, and the waves couldn't be that big, and there was no way, and we were just making stuff up. And Hurricane Sandy sheared the Old Orchard light right off the rocks that was there for 100 years. And Hurricane Sandy helped prove that we were telling the truth about what we saw.
And people who don't remember, a lot of us, of course, remember Hurricane Sandy. Sandy took a rather unusual track, made a left-hand turn, and came slamming into the New Jersey coast from the east. But with Irene pretty much made it up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and then literally hugged the coast all the way right up to New York City, and continued up along the Hudson River Valley, and then turned slightly into the New England, up along the Connecticut River between New Hampshire and Vermont. A rather significant track, and one that we here in New York don't usually see. Most of the tropical cyclones usually pass off to our south and to our east. But Irene was noteworthy. I think Irene was noteworthy in terms of the amount of rain it produced. Many places in and around the tri-state area picked up anywhere from 6 to 12 inches or more of rainfall. Sandy, on the other hand, was more of, as you just mentioned, more of a wind maker. This Sandy produced winds, for example, at Westchester County Airport. I remember peak wind gusts of 65 to 70 miles an hour. So that did quite a bit of damage in terms of wind. But Irene was, again, more of a wet system as opposed to a wind system.
Yeah, and Irene as a whole, had Sandy not happened, Irene would have been a story for a long time. And a lot of people along the South Shore of Long Island, especially along the Great South Bay and Lindenhurst and whatnot, they lost their homes and they rebuilt, and then to lose them again during Sandy. So a lot of people who weren't affected by Irene per se think that Irene was a dud, but there were a lot of people affected by Irene, and to actually take a boat out into Irene and feel her power is just a different thing. And it's one of those things that kind of, it stays with you. You take a look in the past, and you take a look at the moon landings and whatnot, and how people go up to the astronauts and tell them, oh, you didn't really land on the moon and it was fake, and they get upset. It's the same thing when you go out into a hurricane like that and they tell you it's a dud, and you witnessed it personally, the power of it and the size of the waves. It's just a different thing. You're on different wavelengths when it comes to that. But yeah, we witnessed Irene's strength, and then in the book it discusses my role in Hurricane Sandy and the rescues we made during Sandy. And Sandy was definitely a different storm. The storm surge with Sandy was incredible, especially where we were making our rescues in Staten Island, and also in Breezy Point in Queens, where they lost over 300 homes to a gas explosion, and then we had to go rescue them when the third surge was coming in. But Sandy really it did us a favor in the sense that it helped us tell our story about Irene, and that we were telling the truth about how big those waves really were, because Sandy was even bigger.
The book, folks, is Angel of the Storm, written by Ben Reiver, and there's going to be a sequel, obviously.
Yeah, we're working on it. I have an outline already. I have a cover. I have enough material for a second book, and it'll surely discuss, your relationship with me, and everything beyond that moment, from when my son was born and some of the obstacles he went through. And I'm looking forward to telling that story. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit darker. This one has, the Angel of the Storm has a, if you want to call it a happy ending, or it's a lighter story. The second book is a little bit darker with some of the things that we saw in 2015 and beyond, but it's a similar message, and again, a true story of all the things that went beyond the first book.
All right. Stay with us, because we're going to transition over now, and let's start talking about the weather that is going to be impacting the Northeast over the next few days, particularly on Tuesday. And we have Joe. By the way, have your snowfall. Do you have your early call snow forecast ready to share?
I could get it. Yeah, I can get it ready for everybody to take a look. You
Okay.
give me just a few
All right. So
seconds.
have it ready to go. I'm going to get to it in a second. Uh, so we've got winter storm watches up for a good chunk of Northeast PA, Northwest New Jersey, into the Hudson Valley, including the Catskills, also including Orange County, by the way, Northwest Connecticut, much of Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I'm sorry, not Rhode Island. Vermont, New Hampshire, southern half of Vermont, southern half of New Hampshire, and the southern half of Maine. We also have ahead of this snow and some ice to deal with in parts of the Midwest, and we have winter weather advisories up across Kansas, northern Missouri, into Illinois, and probably tomorrow morning we'll see them up for areas in northern Illinois around Chicago, as well as into Indiana and Ohio and southern Michigan. And they just had to deal with a snow of the snowstorm from Saturday. Winter weather advisories are also up for central and northeast Arkansas, northwest Tennessee, and into western Kentucky. We have a peppering of advisories in the Colorado mountains, in the western half of the state, also in north central Utah, and over into western Montana. And on the satellite loop tonight, a cold front's coming through, Mr. Rayo, and there were some showers, but for the most part, they're done.
They are done. We had most of our precipitation came during the first half of the day, and after, I guess, around 1 or 2 o'clock, there was maybe a sporadic or stray cell of shower activity. But for the most part, it was during the first half of the day, and it's all done now, and we're looking for skies to gradually clear tonight. And tomorrow, the calm before the storm, lots of sunshine, temperatures up near 40. The winds won't start kicking in until sometime during the midday and afternoon. So if you have anything to do outside tomorrow, like get ready for Tuesday, and I'm talking to all of you who live north and west of New York City, because that's where the snows are going to be flying, you might want to do it during the day tomorrow, because after we get past the Tuesday storm, Joe, we've got yet another cold front that's going to be working its way through here on Thursday, and that's going to usher in by far and away the coldest weather we've seen so far this fall season. I'm calling for low temperatures across the Hudson Valley Thursday night, down in the teens to near maybe 10 degrees in some spots, and not getting out of the 20s for the day on Friday. So it is going to turn significantly colder. We're going to get an old 1-2 punch. First the snow and then the cold during the course of this upcoming week.
I've got the wide radar view, and as Joe pointed out, except for the eastern half of Long Island and southernmost New Jersey, the showers are done. We still have some rain in southeastern New England, also down into eastern Virginia and North Carolina with a few heavier downpours, and it's been a gloom and doom type of day here and day here in North Georgia. where it didn't get out of the 40s today. I'm at 45 right now. We had on and off rain all day long. And also starting to see the beginnings of precipitation across Texas and into areas to the north in the colder air in Kansas and Nebraska, although much of that at the moment is aloft. The Weather Service snow forecast, and we'll go from this to Joe's early call to my early call. This is total snowfall, and I'm going to give this. I'm just going to give this a quick data refresh in case they updated it, which they have not from late this afternoon, mid afternoon. But you can see along the immediate coast, which is probably going to be mostly rain. But from about New York City to southern Connecticut, southeastern New England, except the Cape, there'll probably be a little bit of snow at the start before it goes to rain. And then you start to get into the higher numbers as you go north up the Hudson Valley, northwest to northwest New Jersey, and for just about all of Pennsylvania. In a general, I would broad brush it and just say a 4 to 8 inch snowfall. Some places will get a little bit more, some places get a little bit less, and that runs up into New England. And also, ahead of that, there is additional snowfall. Now, some of these numbers I think are probably off in the Midwest. It looks like they still are including um, uh, what just happened, and the data hasn't come off yet. And there's lake effect in there too. So we'll see if I can clean this map up and see we get some cleaner numbers. But as I said, Joe has his early call, and for those of you who are new to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, Mr. Rayo and I do not discuss our snow forecasts ahead of time. We do them separately. We do them quietly, and then we match them up for the show. And there's Joe's up on the screen. So, Mr. Rayo, please elaborate.
I've been pulling my hair out to a degree. I'm trying to wonder why the NAM, for example, the North American model, has been so very warm, especially in the boundary level temperatures, which, if you took them at face value, you'd say, well, it's gonna rain all the way up into parts of Orange County, Dutchess County, ridiculously warm readings, and I don't understand why. Meantime, the GFS and especially the European have been further to the south and have placed our area in a colder zone, which makes it better for those of you who like snow to see it happen. And right now, from what I can see, as best as I can, consolidate or you take a consensus on all the models, pretty much if you live on Long Island, you're looking at rain, although it may start out as some flakes of wet snow. Look for mainly rain. New York City and areas to the south of, let's say, Interstate 287 in Westchester, the Sound Shore area, a slush coating, and you might actually get upwards to an inch of accumulation. But then I think even down there, it's going to change over to rain. But again, front loaded, enough snow so that initially you may pick up a bit of an accumulation. As you go further north and west into the colder air, you see a better chance of accumulating snow just north of 287, an inch or two, and then up into northern Westchester, most of Rockland County, the lower half of Putnam County. I've got 2 to 4 inches falling. And then as you go north of the I-84 corridor, that's where you see the snow really begin to pile up, I think, at least 4, maybe as much as 6 inches. And as you go continue to go north up into Ulster County, Sullivan County, northern Dutchess County, and especially in this region where the elevations go above 1,000 feet, now you're talking about snow that could accumulate to more than a half a foot. And in fact, up toward the Catskill Mountain region, you see I've got 8+ inches up there and on toward Albany as well. So the bottom line is the further north and west you go on Tuesday, the better your odds of probably getting some accumulating snow. Looks like it's going to be the slushy kind of snow, though, the kind that clings readily to trees, may make for some areas by midday on Tuesday, kind of like a Courier and Ives Christmas card, if you will. And again, as you go further south, again toward New York and Long Island and down into north central and central New Jersey, it looks like this is going to be more or less a mainly rain event. So that's how it looks right now. And I think the rain will spread across the entire tri-state region from west to east between 7 and 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So it looks like the morning commute is going to be impacted. And I do have, my kids are teachers, and my daughter-in-law teaches in Harrison in Lower Westchester. I don't think she's going to get a chance at seeing any snow day marked for her. In fact, her school, you really need a big snowstorm before they finally consider, closing the school. So I think she's going to have school. My son, however, who teaches up near West Point in Orange County, he's like on my map. He looks like right on the line between 2 to 4 and 4 to 6. He may very well have a day off on Tuesday, if not a school delay. And my daughter, who teaches up in the Ulster County area, up near around New Paltz, 6 to 8 inches. I don't think if this verifies, I don't think that she's going to have any school on Tuesday. I think it definitely looks like a snow day for her on Tuesday with this impending storm. So that's how it looks to me right now, Joe.
And Ben, you posted this morning about this.
Yeah, we've been watching this for almost a week now, and as you guys know, you're the experts. This is the time of year when we start watching these systems sweep on by and get caught along the Gulf and stall out, and they get brought back up by any disturbance coming out of the Rockies or the back end of high pressure as that cold air locks into the area. So this is your typical early to mid-December system in my book. We've had a lot of experience with it. I know I set off a lot of people talking about it a few days prior. But when you know something's going to happen, you just know. Obviously we don't know where rain, snow lines are going to set up, 5 days in advance. But we knew something that was going to happen. As far as my opinion is concerned, I think that the NAM is probably going to drift towards the euro a little bit in terms of the models are concerned. We're getting towards the end here. But I think we're going to see a large swath of 6 to 12 inches of heavy wet snow for southeast New York into interior of New England when all is said and done.
And not much for the coast.
Not much for the coast. I wouldn't be surprised to see some onset wet snow in New York City, maybe the North Shore, Long Island, and that's something that I initially brought up a few days ago, and I was called crazy, but that's what I was seeing, and you could see that cold air locking in. I think we're going to get to the upper 20s to low 30s overnight on Monday night before the moisture sets in. So, depending on that timing of the moisture, we could very well see some wet flakes on the onset before changing to a cold rain in New York City.
And there's my early call snow forecast map, which I do usually about 72 hours before something gets underway. And I waited a little longer this time around. I don't change forecast maps. I only change them once. When I do an early call and I just leave it alone, and then a final call, which I'll do probably tomorrow night. Uh, I don't change stuff from run to run. A lot of people, which a lot of people do, and and it's what apps do because they're all model based. But Joe, I think I'm pretty much matched up with you. I mean, I have north and west of 287. You start to get into a couple of inches. You go up toward Route 84. I have a 4-inch line drawn there. Also goes back into northwest New Jersey and in northeast Pennsylvania, and then through the Catskills and north of 84, northwestern Connecticut into western and central Mass, 6 inches plus. And could there be some amounts that go up to 7 or 8? Yeah, why not? We'll just let it play out. I was actually kind of concerned. I don't know if you picked up on this, Joe, over the weekend. I was a little bit concerned over the fact that the Europeans seem to want to just stay, have the snow shield further south because I guess it sees that the cold air is more important. So that's the one thing that I'm just kind of in the back of my mind want to keep an eye on. It probably won't make much of a difference for coastal areas. But it could push down those 4-inch lines and the 6-inch lines a little bit further south if it winds up being slightly colder than what is being currently modeled. It's also pretty odd that the GFS, which normally is cold and suppressed, is actually one of the is the warm model for this, which I thought was kind of interesting too. But I feel pretty confident in what I got, and of course, now that I've matched your forecast, Joe, my confidence level has just skyrocketed to.
Gone down. No, I agree with you. You know, the operational European is pretty much the perfect model if you really are into snow. If you want to see snow over the lower Hudson Valley, for example, or northwestern New Jersey, you say, okay, I'm going with the European. On the other hand, though, the ensemble run of the European has that storm going even further south. And what does that mean? That means that maybe it's cold enough, perhaps even for New York or Long Island, but also means that a lot of the heavier precipitation may also be south. So that means that places that where we're pointing out 4 and 6 inches may not get quite as much because we'll be more on the northern periphery of the storm if the storm goes further south than we're initially going for right now. But again, I think the big thing, and I'll be very interested in an hour and 10 minutes when the zero Z NAM comes out. I've been waiting for the NAM to get colder, and it seems like with each passing run, the NAM just keeps getting warmer and warmer. It's not following along. I know Ben just said that he thinks ultimately the NAM will follow and trend toward the European solution, and that would be nice to see. You'd like to get all of your players on the same page, so to speak. But I'm scratching my head and wondering why the NAM is pushing that storm literally right up to the New York City area, whereas the GFS and especially the European has it so much further to the south and to the east. So we'll see. You say to yourself, now, well, the NAM is certainly not as good as the global models. And then I think back to 2016 and that one particular case where the NAM was projecting like 20 to 30 inches of snow for New York. The global models had like less than half of that. And then all of a sudden, the last minute, the global model said, "Hey, the NAM solution's great. We're going to go with that." So, I wish I said to myself the other night, 50 years from now, maybe we'll be dealing with just one model, and the forecasters 50 years from now will be looking back at us and saying, "Ha, remember those guys? They had to look at like 14 different models in order to come up with a consensus and make a forecast. We've got the universal model here that's always right." That may come true one day, but it's
We'll
not
be
true now.
long gone from this earth, Joe. We'll be little cakes of dust by that
Well,
time.
we're going to be thinking about things other than trying to put out a forecast or a snow map 50 or 60 years from now.
Right. Well, I do have the ensemble. I do have the European ensemble snowfall forecast. I also have the AI, which we'll take a look at in a second. But yeah, it actually gives a coating to an inch to Long Island and even down into central and north central coastal New Jersey. It gives a couple of tenths there. Gives an inch to New York City, an inch to Philadelphia, 2.5 to Yonkers. Now it's an average of 54 models, so you're going to have the extremes on both sides. Uh, I find it kind of hard to use it as a short range tool, but there are some members that are further south, clearly, and you can see that the amounts go up fairly quickly once you go just inland of the coast. I mean, it's got Yonkers at 2.5, and it gives most of northeastern New Jersey and the areas just west of New York City on the order of a couple of inches. So, the ensembles are where they are. Bigger amounts, oddly enough, the biggest amounts on the ensembles are actually in eastern Massachusetts. Worcester at 7.7, Lowell at 6.8, 3.4 in Boston, just under 4 inches in Providence and Rhode Island, and 5.5 in Hartford. And it's got 4 to 5 inches in the Hudson Valley, almost 4 inches in Albany, but it doesn't go really crazy. And 3 to 5 inch snow amounts in northeastern Pennsylvania. So that's off the ensemble. The European operational 18Z is not too far different from the ensemble, by the way. It's maybe not quite as far south, but it's still giving trace amounts to a quarter or a half an inch for some immediate coastal areas. But again, it has the idea that maybe the heavier snows are going to be in northeastern Connecticut and on up into the eastern half of Massachusetts, rather than being to the west and to the north in upstate New York and in eastern Pennsylvania. The AI on the European, these, by the way, are thanks to Pivotal Weather, to which I'm a paid subscriber of. Uh, the European AI, uh, again, a little bit further south, although it has bigger amounts into the Hudson Valley, even into Putnam County, Joe. In northern Putnam County, the AI on the European gives half a foot. So again, it'll be interesting to see if the European is correct on the idea that this high to the north is going to wedge in maybe just a little bit more or just enough to force this low to go a bit more to the south rather than take a track up, uh, say, to coastal New Jersey and just off the south shore of Long Island.
And incidentally, for those of you plume fans out there who are wondering what the plumes are saying, the forecast, the Storm Prediction Center plume viewer is indicating that New York City is going to see, and I just want to make sure I've got all my ducks in a row here. Uh, New York City would get like 2/10 of an inch of snow. White Plains would get about 7/10 of an inch of snow, not all that much. You go up to Poughkeepsie, and the plumes are suggesting about 3.3 and a quarter inches of snow. You have to go way to the north, up toward Albany. Albany, the plumes are indicating an amount in excess of a half a foot, 6.2 for Albany. So it does not look. Let me just one more here. Pittsfield in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, they've got 6.34. So if you believe the plumes, they have a modest amount of snow through the lower Hudson Valley. You really have to go far north to get, snows in excess of 4, 5, 6 inches. And we'll see how this again all pans out or all plays out. The snows apparently are going to be reaching their peak, according to the 3 hourly snow. The snows would be at their peak late in the day on Tuesday, at least at White Plains. But again, we're still. You think about it though, we're still about 36 hours away from the first flakes, and still have a couple of more runs to try to clarify things. But whatever happens, we do know that Tuesday is the day that we're going to be dealing with some unsettled and possibly sloppy weather. And thank you. I'm going to ring the bell. I just realized that we actually went over 100 a little while ago, but first time in a while that we had over 100 likes. Thank you.
By the way, while you were talking about the plumes, which is off the SREF model, from Stony Brook, I put up the snowfall forecast map on the screen, from from the SREF. And in fact, I'm gonna just go widen this out so we can take a look regionally and see what's happening with regards to total snowfall, so you can get a better picture in places to the west and southwest, across Pennsylvania. I'll go back to the European, and here we go. Just give me a moment here to get the right graphic. Okay, should do it. Oh no, this is that's not total snowfall. This is total snowfall. So this is the 18Z European, and it actually has a swath of 6 inch plus snows. Go. Why does it have it so far south? Wait, I just want to make sure I got this right.
Are you looking at the ensemble European or the
No, no,
operational
this is the
European?
regular European. No, I included. I went all the way out to the end, which includes Saturday when there might be something else. But this is the snowfall back through Pennsylvania, and you can see there's, except for the extreme southeast, who some moron tried to pick an argument over me because I said widespread snowfall for the state of Pennsylvania, and then I put in parentheses, except for the extreme southeast. And he took issue with. I mean, I man, you would have had a field day with this one. Um, so the guy I wrote that this was going to be statewide snowfall for Pennsylvania, with the exception of the extreme southeast. That's literally what I said. And he said, if you're making the exception for this extreme southeast, then it's not a statewide snowfall. And I,
This is where Angry Ben comes out.
yes,
The real
please
Angry
help
Ben.
me, because
And
I'm like, see, I'm thinking, when you were a kid in the playground and you did something like that, were you the guy that used to get beat up by everybody else for being for being the
apparently
D
so.
word?
They, some people get too emotionally invested in weather, and we just have a job to do, and try and follow the trends and the forecasts and the models, and use our instinct, and you just do the best you can. But there'll be plenty of people that you're going to anger along the way. There's nothing you can do about it.
I
Especially the
lost
people
my
from
mind with
Pennsylvania.
this.
Yeah, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Those are typically the two that start saying stuff and trolling and whatnot. I just try to ignore it.
Which is a wise decision on your part.
Yeah.
All right, look at the other thing about this week is we're in a very active and cold pattern. Joe, you mentioned about Thursday, because we do have a cold front that's dropping down from eastern Canada. And when you look at it from the standpoint of the upper air, it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's a nice shortwave that drives through eastern Canada come Thursday on the 12Z, and on the 18Z is actually even more impressive. I'll bring that up. Uh, and it goes through, you get this shot of cold air, and it kind of hangs around when we get into another shortwave that's going to get kicked out of the Central Plains, much like this one, and it's going to push eastward. So we may have a repeat performance of this come Saturday, and it may play out the same way. Maybe the cold air will be more important uh, than it is this time around. That gets kicked along. Very cold upper air for the first half of December. I mean, it's really not until you get to about mid-month that you see temperatures actually moderate to some degree. But Ben, in your opinion, um, and I've been saying this for quite some time, that it just seems like this entire, and I think it started back in the last couple of weeks, last week or so of August, uh, the transition from summer to autumn, and from autumn, and now we're transitioning over to winter. It just feels a lot different this year than it's felt in the last, say, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, was that for me?
Yes.
Yeah. I've actually said this in the past, and a lot of the past seasons in the last couple of years reminds me of some of the ones that I've seen in the 80s, where we've seen summer kind of shut off around Labor Day, which is what we used to see. And we're starting to see some of the storms that we used to see in the 80s, where you'd see majority snow north and west of New York City, instead of these big storms that we saw in the early 2000s for Long Island and New York City. I think that there's nothing that ever truly matches or makes sense, but we're starting to see, I think, some of these patterns rhyme with some of the things that we've seen in the 80s and early 90s. We'll see if it plays out. But as far as the trend, I see a cold pattern developing, but towards the middle of the month or the end of the month, more of like a fast-moving zonal pattern, but trending with colder zonal. So we could see some weak systems and maybe some chance of some light snow or overrunning type situations where we see some mix. We'll see how it plays out.
All right, here's our cold front. You can see the storm evolve on the European run today. A lot of rain breaking out across the deep south and southeast come Monday night and Tuesday, and maybe even some thunderstorms in the mix. Snow in the colder air to the north. Not very weak high pressure over Nova Scotia that's just sort of trying to push in. Succeeds for New England and interior New York, but not for the coast. And The surface low is actually, at least on the European, is pretty far south. I mean, it runs well to the east of the Virginia coast, rather than, although there's a maybe some kind of little low that's up on the northern part of this isobar, uh, sitting south of Montauk, come late Tuesday. But then that goes out, and there's Joe's cold front moving through the Great Lakes Wednesday night and through the Northeast on Thursday, with a solid push of cold air that comes in to set up another low for Saturday. Maybe the one for the weekend. Maybe the air will be a little bit colder, or at least at the start. We'll see how that plays. And then out that goes, and then we get another cold front and another cold high that comes in around the 8th and 9th and settles into the eastern part of the United States. So December certainly starting out on the cold side for sure. But we got to work these systems one at a time, which we are going to do. Ben, thank you for coming on tonight. Once again, his book is Angel of the Storm, and it's Ben Reiver is the author. Angry Ben's Angry Weather on Facebook. NYCweathernow.com is the website he publishes on. And the link for his book is pinned to the top of the chat board, and you can purchase it on Amazon. So thanks for being here tonight, Angry Ben. No cigar tonight?
No cigar tonight. I'm actually, we converted half of my bedroom into like a mini office for me, because my wife has her own office with her job with Aetna. But no cigar in the bedroom. But I really appreciate you guys having me. It's been too long, but I hope to do it again one day. It was really enjoyable being with you guys and talking about my book, and also giving my input with some of the forecasts.
Very good. We're very happy to have you here. And Mr. Ray, I didn't hear you ring the bell for 100
I did
likes.
ring the bell before. I'll ring it. I'll ring it again. We are up to 135 likes, and we want to thank Ben for
Really,
helping us get to.
I didn't hear it. I mean, I'm not. No, I saw you ring it, and I always
Yeah.
hear you ringing the bell. For some reason, I did not hear the bell ring. That's something
Okay.
new.
Well,
It must be. I must
we
have
got
like
an extra ring tonight for the 135 likes, and we thank Ben for helping us put us over the 100 mark. It's been a while since we've done that, and we'll see if we have a large crowd tomorrow night. I'm sure we will, as will be right up on the edge of our first significant snowfall of the season, and it's also tomorrow will be the official start of meteorological winter as well.
That's right. Ben, is there a Kindle version?
There is no Kindle. There is no Kindle version yet. I'm doing it the old school way. We are starting with a hardcover, then we'll be going to paperback, and then eventually a Kindle version. I'm just trying to do it the old school way. I have a book signing. I know most of the listeners are up in the Northeast, but I have a book signing. My first book signing at Litchfield Books in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, on Saturday. And we're just trying to follow the traditional method and trying to get the word out there. It's doing very good. We've gotten some very good feedback. I've actually only had one complaint, which I'm not going to go into on here. But out of all the people who've purchased it, I've only had one complaint, and it was kind of a strange one. I won't go into it again, but
I read it. I read about it.
It's one of those things. You go to a fine restaurant, you go to a great hotel, and there's always going to be that one person that doesn't like it, and you just have to move on from it, and just hope that you reach out to a large amount of people. And as I said, this book, even though there's a spiritual tone to it, it has something for everybody in it. And again, it's not a preachy thing. It's just talking about my experience. It's a true story. And I've gotten some very good feedback from it from all walks of life. So it's good.
Joe, everybody on the chat board said they didn't hear the bell either. So I wonder if you have on Zoom, there's like a noise cancellation setting that if you click on it,
it's possible that that is the story, that is the case, because this is a new machine that I'm working with, and I'm still,
Figuring it
learning
out.
slowly but surely what's going on with it. So, yeah, I'll have to see what the story is. Audio settings here. What is that? So,
Yeah,
so
we'll do that after we sign off. So, which we're going to do right now. So, everybody have a
yeah,
great
whatever.
night, and we'll see you all tomorrow night at the usual time, 7:35 p.m. Eastern. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving Day holiday. Now it's on to Christmas and Hanukkah, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one. Thank you. Thanks very much, Ben.
Thank you, Joe. And Joe, thank you.
Night.